Hello?
911, we got a call from this number. Is everything okay? Where are you? Where are you?
Police were already on the way after the first call, but more officers headed to the street and the home after the second call.
By the time that dispatcher's frantic follow-up call came through, it was already too late. Montanae Davis lay dying on her living room floor, shot multiple times by her ex-boyfriend, the same man she had named in her 911 call just 18 minutes earlier. This is the story of a 26-year-old nurse and mother whose only crime was finding happiness after leaving a toxic relationship. A woman who did everything right, called police, documented threats, protected her children, and still became another statistic in America's domestic violence epidemic. In this episode, we'll walk you through the text messages that escalated from jealousy to death threats. We'll reveal the hidden voice recorder Montanae used to document her ex's threats. And we'll break down, minute by minute, how an 18-minute gap between her desperate call for help and police arrival created the deadly window that cost this young mother her life. What happened to Montanae Davis wasn't random. It wasn't unpredictable. It was the final act in a pattern of escalation that too many recognize but few escape. A pattern we need to understand before more lives are lost.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Before her name became a headline, Montanae Davis, Mon to those who loved her, was building the life she'd always dreamed of. At 26, she had graduated high school, completed nursing training, and secured a position that finally gave her the stability she'd worked so hard to achieve. On her social media, you could see the pride in her accomplishments. "The most important thing now is being in touch with myself," she wrote in one post. In another, "I love what I do." Her colleagues described her as selfless and compassionate, with a genuine commitment to patient care. But Mon's greatest pride was her 2 children. "You fall with your first child, you go through everything together," she once posted. "I owe my baby so much." These weren't just her children, they were her motivation, her reason for pushing forward through every obstacle. By early 2024, Mon's persistence was paying off. She had established herself professionally. She had created a home on Torrington Place in Dayton. And perhaps most significantly, she had found someone who, in her words, ticked every box. A partner who respected her ambitions and adored her children. She began posting photos of their happiness, vacation trips, family moments, even silly challenges together. In one video, they attempted to eat something spicy. "If you die, I don't know CPR," he joked. "You're the nurse." For the first time in years, Mon was truly happy. She was building the life she deserved. Stable, loving, full of possibility. What she couldn't have known was how deadly that happiness would prove to be. Jamartay Brown couldn't accept that Montanae had moved on. At 24, 2 years younger than Mon, he had dated her for approximately 5 years before she ended the relationship. What began as a normal connection had gradually revealed its toxic core. As Mon's new relationship blossomed, Brown's behavior deteriorated. The calls started, constant, insistent. Then came the texts, dozens per day. He could not handle seeing her on social media happy, one friend later told investigators. Mon tried blocking his number. She tried ignoring the messages. Nothing worked. Brown would create new accounts, use different phones, anything to maintain his grip on her attention. She would sometimes cancel plans last minute, another friend revealed. "We didn't realize at first it was because he would get upset if she went out without him." By March 2024, Brown's fixation had reached a dangerous intensity. He began monitoring Mon's social media obsessively, noting every post, every photo with a new partner, every hint of the happiness he couldn't stand to see. On March 28, just 6 days before her murder, Mon made a decision that shows she recognized the danger. She began documenting Brown's threats, using a hidden voice recorder in her bedroom. On that recording, later recovered by police, Brown can be heard saying, "If I see you with him again, I'll kill you. I'd rather see you dead than with someone else." Mon showed this recording to friends but never shared it with authorities. A critical missed opportunity that highlights how many victims don't believe the system will protect them until physical violence occurs. As April began, Brown's messages became more frequent, more threatening. In one particularly chilling text he wrote, "You think you can just post about your new man and I won't do anything about it?" The countdown to violence had begun. And on the night of April 2nd, it would reach 0. April 2nd, 2024 began as an ordinary Tuesday for Montanae Davis. She completed her nursing shift at Miami Valley Hospital, where colleagues later recalled she had been in particularly good spirits. She was talking about weekend plans, one coworker remembered. "She seemed happier than I'd seen her in months." This happiness, this glimpse of a better future, makes what happened next all the more devastating. After her shift, Mon picked up her children from daycare. Security footage from the facility shows her laughing with her kids, helping them into her car, completely unaware that in less than 12 hours, they would be motherless. She stopped at a grocery store on the way home, another mundane detail that underscores the normalcy of her day. The receipt later found in her purse shows she bought ingredients for breakfast: eggs, milk, bread. A mother planning for tomorrow. By 11:30 p.m., Mon had settled into her home on Torrington Place. Her children were asleep in their bedrooms. The house was quiet. She sat on her couch, scrolling through her phone, exchanging texts with her new partner about their upcoming weekend plans. They were discussing taking the kids to a park, perhaps a movie afterward. Ordinary plans. Normal happiness. The first disruption came at 12:15 a.m. on April 3rd. Jamartay Brown's name illuminated Mon's phone screen. She didn't answer. Why would she? She had made it clear their relationship was over. She had moved on. She had found happiness with someone who respected her. But Brown called again. And again. And again. By 1:30 a.m., Mon had silenced her phone, placing it face down on the coffee table. She tried to sleep, but the constant vibration of incoming messages kept her awake. At 2 a.m., she finally checked her phone. 17 missed calls. 23 text messages. All from Brown. The content of these messages, later recovered by digital forensics experts, shows a chilling progression from manipulation to rage to explicit threats. 12:20 a.m. Why aren't you answering? I know you're up. 12:45 a.m. You think you can just ignore me? 1:15 a.m. I see you posting all over social media with him. You trying to make me jealous. 1:30 a.m. You know I still love you. We can work this out. 1:45 a.m. Answer your phone. This isn't over. 2 a.m. You think you can just replace me like I'm nothing? By 2:15 a.m., the tone had shifted dramatically. You think you can just post about your new man and I won't do anything about it? You're disrespecting me. You're going to regret this. I'm not going to let you be with someone else. At 2:30 a.m., the explicit threat arrived, the one that finally prompted Mon to act. I'm coming over there right now. You better be ready. I'm going to shoot up that whole house. This message, this specific threat, is crucial to understanding what happened next. It wasn't vague. It wasn't ambiguous. It was a clear statement of deadly intent from a man Mon knew was volatile. A man who had already demonstrated his willingness to violate boundaries. At 2:42 a.m. Mon, now genuinely alarmed, woke another adult woman staying in her home, a friend who had come to visit for a few days. The presence of this witness would later prove critical to the investigation. Mon showed her the threatening messages, the escalating tone, the explicit danger. She was scared, the friend later testified. I'd never seen her like that before. She kept saying, he's actually going to do it this time. He's going to come here. This testimony contradicts any suggestion that Mon didn't take the threats seriously. She recognized the danger. She was taking action. At 2:49 a.m., Mon made the call that should have saved her life. The 9/11 recording, later played in court, captures both her calm determination and underlying fear. 911 dispatcher. 911, what's your emergency? Mon, my ex-boyfriend is threatening to come to my house and shoot it up. I have 2 children here. Dispatcher, what's your address? Mon, 700 block of Torrington Place. Dispatcher, and your name? Mon, Montanae Davis. Dispatcher, is he there now? Mon, no, but he's been calling and texting saying he's on his way. He's threatening to shoot up my house. I have my kids here. Dispatcher, can you tell me his name? Mon, Jamartay Brown. Jamartay Latrell Brown. Dispatcher, and you said he's threatening to come to your house with a gun? Mon, yes. He's been texting me for hours. He's saying he's going to shoot up my house. I'm scared for my kids. Dispatcher, okay, I'm sending officers to your location. Stay on the line with me if you can. The dispatcher assured Mon that officers would be dispatched. The call was logged at 2:52 a.m. But due to other active calls in the area, a bar fight across town, a suspected break-in at a convenience store, the response was not immediate. This 3-minute delay would prove critical. At 2:53 a.m., while still on the line with 911, Mon heard a noise outside. I think he's here, she whispered to the dispatcher. I hear something outside. The dispatcher advised her to stay away from windows and doors, to gather her children and friend in a secure room if possible. At 2:54 a.m., the line with Mon went dead. The dispatcher immediately called back, but there was no answer. At 2:55 a.m., a second call came into 911, this one from the friend staying in Mon's home. The recording captures her panic. Friend, someone's trying to break in. He's at the back door. Dispatcher, is this at the Torrington Place address? Friend, yes. He's breaking the glass. The call disconnected abruptly. When the dispatcher called back, the chilling exchange was captured on the 911 recording. Dispatcher, hello, 911. We got a call from this number. Is everything okay? Where are you? Where are you? At 2:57 a.m., neighbors heard the sound of breaking glass and a door being forced open. One neighbor, Robert Caldwell, later testified that he was awakened by the noise. It wasn't just glass breaking, he said. It was violent, like someone was forcing their way in. At 2:58 a.m., Brown forced his way into the home through a rear door. The physical evidence at the scene tells the story. He broke the glass panel on the door, reached in, and unlocked it from the inside. His fingerprints were later found on both the broken glass and the door handle, irrefutable evidence of his presence. At 2:59 a.m. Mon, hearing the intrusion, made a decision that defines her character. She positioned herself between the intruder and her children's bedrooms. Mon's first words upon hearing the glass break were, "My babies. He can't get to my babies." This moment, this maternal instinct to protect at all costs, is perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of the entire case. Mon knew the danger. She knew what Brown was capable of. And still, her first thought was for her children. Between 3 o'clock and 3:02 a.m., a confrontation occurred in the living room. Mon tried to flee toward the front door but was intercepted. Brown was enraged, screaming accusations about Mon's new relationship. "You think you can just replace me?" he reportedly shouted. "You think I'm going to let you be with him?" Mon remained calm even in this moment of extreme danger. "Please leave," she said. "My children are sleeping. Please don't do this." It was at this moment, with Mon standing between Brown and the hallway leading to her children's bedrooms, that he pulled out a 9mm handgun. The friend, who had been hiding behind a couch, described what happened next. He just started shooting. No warning. No more words. He just started shooting. Mon fell backward. She looked at me for a second. Just a second, and then he shot her again while she was on the ground. Neighbors reported hearing 5 distinct gunshots in rapid succession. 5 shots. 5 wounds later documented in Mon's autopsy. 5 shell casings recovered from the scene. The precision of this violence is chilling. The most haunting detail, according to the friend's testimony, came after the shooting. As Mon lay dying on the floor, she whispered, "Please don't hurt my babies." These words, this final maternal plea, would later become a rallying cry for domestic violence advocates across Ohio. At 3:03 a.m., a neighbor called 911 to report the gunshots. "I just heard gunfire next door," the caller said. "Multiple shots. Someone's screaming." At 3:04 a.m., the first police units, already en route from the initial call, received the updated information about shots fired and increased their response priority. But they were still minutes away. At 3:07 a.m., exactly 18 minutes after Mon's initial call for help, police finally arrived at the Torrington Place address. They found the rear door forced open and Mon lying in the living room with multiple gunshot wounds. The friend was hiding in a bathroom with one of Mon's children. The second child remained asleep, unharmed but forever changed, in a bedroom. Officer James Wilson, first on the scene, later described what he found. The victim was still conscious when we arrived. She was able to identify her shooter by name. She said, "Jamartay Brown did this. Don't let him hurt my kids." Those were her last coherent words. At 3:09 a.m., officers secured the scene and called for emergency medical services. At 3:12 a.m., paramedics arrived and began life-saving measures on Mon, who was still alive but gravely injured. At 3:20 a.m., Mon was transported to Miami Valley Hospital, the very place where she had cared for countless patients as a nurse. The irony of this detail is almost too painful to contemplate. A healer becoming a patient in her own hospital, fighting for her life in familiar corridors. Despite the efforts of her colleagues, many of whom recognized her immediately and worked with desperate intensity to save her, Montanae Davis was pronounced dead at 3:45 a.m. from multiple gunshot wounds. Dayton Police Major Brian Johns later told reporters, "There is information that we are aware of that there was like a break in there first. That there was like a fight taking place and then the shots were actually fired and she was struck and killed." But this clinical description fails to capture the true horror of what happened in that house on Torrington Place. It fails to acknowledge that Mon did everything right. She recognized the danger. She called for help. She identified her potential killer by name. And still she died. The investigation moved quickly after Mon's death. By 6 a.m., just 3 hours after the shooting, police had issued an all-points bulletin for Jamartay Brown. His photograph was distributed to all patrol units, and officers began checking known addresses associated with him. Digital forensics experts were already examining Mon's phone, recovering the threatening text messages that had prompted her 911 call. These messages would later become central to the prosecution's case, demonstrating both premeditation and intent. But the most shocking discovery came when investigators searched Mon's bedroom. Hidden among her personal belongings was a voice recorder, a small device she had apparently been using to document Brown's threats. On this recorder was a file dated March 28, just 6 days before the murder. In this recording, Brown can be heard clearly saying, "If I see you with him again, I'll kill you. I'd rather see you dead than with someone else." This recording, this piece of evidence that Mon had created but never shared with authorities, would become the cornerstone of the case against Brown. It was Mon's voice from beyond the grave, identifying her killer and his motive. As one detective later put it, she knew she was in danger. She was gathering evidence. She just ran out of time. This is perhaps the most devastating aspect of Mon's story. She recognized the threat. She was taking steps to protect herself. She was doing everything victims are told to do. And still, the system failed her. The 18 minutes between her call for help and the arrival of police created a window of opportunity for violence, a window that Brown exploited with deadly efficiency. Those 18 minutes represent not just a tragedy for Mon and her family, but a damning indictment of how our society responds to domestic violence. As we examine the timeline of that night, the calls, the texts, the breaking glass, the gunshots, we're forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes calling 911 isn't enough. Sometimes the system designed to protect the vulnerable fails at its most fundamental task. But there's another truth hidden in this timeline, one that's equally important to acknowledge. Montanae Davis died as she lived, protecting her children, standing her ground, refusing to be intimidated. Even in her final moments, facing a man with a gun, she positioned herself between danger and her children. This courage, this maternal instinct to protect at all costs, is Mon's true legacy. Not the tragedy of her death, but the strength of her life. But there's one more piece to this story, one final discovery that would transform the investigation and ensure that justice for Montanae Davis would be swift and certain. The manhunt for Jamartay Brown was brief. At 10:15 a.m. on April 3rd, just 7 hours after he took Montanae's life, an alert patrol officer spotted him walking near a convenience store 2 miles from the crime scene. The evidence against him is overwhelming. Mon's 911 call explicitly naming him. The voice recording she secretly made. The threatening text messages. The eyewitness testimony. And the murder weapon itself, found discarded in a storm drain nearby. Brown now faces charges of aggravated murder with prior calculation and design, aggravated burglary, weapons possession, and child endangerment. If convicted, he faces life without parole. This is not a case about who did it, the prosecutor told the court. This is a case about a man who told the victim exactly what he was going to do, and then did it. But justice for Montanae Davis extends beyond a single conviction. Her case has already sparked the Montanae Initiative, a program focused specifically on helping women document threats and create safety plans that address the critical gap between reporting danger and receiving protection. Mon's 2 children now live with her mother. A GoFundMe organized by her nursing colleagues raised over $50,000 in just 5 days to support their future, a testament to how deeply Mon was loved and respected. For those currently in dangerous situations, Mon's story offers crucial lessons. Document everything, but don't keep that documentation to yourself. Share it immediately with authorities. Develop a safety plan that includes emergency contacts and safe locations. Seek legal protection at the first sign of threats. Don't wait for physical violence. Break the silence. Tell friends, family, co-workers about your situation. The more people who know, the more protection you have. It is almost unbelievable that a young woman can't have her life going well without someone somewhere hating. It's extremely sad her kids have to grow up without their mother for such a senseless reason. Say her name, Montanae Davis. Remember her not just as a victim, but as a woman who did everything in her power to survive a system that failed her. If you or someone you know is in danger, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Don't wait 18 minutes. Don't wait at all. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Say Her Name. Your support allows us to continue telling these essential stories that might otherwise go untold. Where are you watching from? Have you or someone you know experienced domestic violence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters in this conversation.